Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show, Tiv. I'm Dave Hill. I wouldn't want to say you're a comedian because you're also a talented musician. You're an author. Um, you do quite a bit actually, but
Thank
you
you.
are a very funny person
Thank you.
on everything you do. You know,
Thank you.
you're a serious musician that does a lot of funny things, and I think that's why you first came into my life. Was like most people are probably a metal end was Metal Grasshopper, and then later
Oh
on other
yeah, with
stuff.
Phil Anselmo. Yeah.
Yep, which at the time was pretty
Yep.
cutting edge. There wasn't
Cool.
anything like that back then. That was like what 8, 10 years ago. It was a while ago.
Yeah, I think it was like 2014, I think. I don't know. I think, yeah,
But
about 10
it
years
was,
ago.
yeah, it was ahead of its time. Though there wasn't a lot going on because you know before COVID, nobody was doing a lot online. Not like that, little packages and stuff. So it was pretty funny and kind of special at the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It was super fun to do. We had a blast just being stupid at his house for a week and good times.
so how did that? We'll just start there, just really briefly. How did that start? Because you've been playing guitar. Clearly, you're a good guitar player. Now,
Thanks.
had you known him? Had you been playing guitar in other bands and kind of crossed paths and came up with that idea to do that? It's kind of a weird off.
No, that's not how I met Phil. Yeah, I'd been playing in bands before I ever went into comedy, but what happened was Um, Phil is friends with Phil and his wife Kate, friends with my friends Chris Lee and Sean Isolt. Sean was the bass player in White Zombie, who of course toured
Yep.
with Pantera a ton. Uh, and so they lived part time in New York, and we became friends, and uh, and then Chris had the idea for a series where Phil would teach me about metal. And actually, Sean thought of the title, and we sold it to Adult Swim. Adult Swim was doing like a bunch of like digital shows, and then we shot it for them ostensibly, and then they ended up killing all their digital series, so they just gave everyone back their stuff, and so we got our series back and just threw it on YouTube, and it caught on like pretty. It's funny, like it's to this day, get tons of it's like little clips on Instagram I'll see giving no credit to the series or me, or just
Yep.
like just throwing it out there as this thing, which I think is funny. And now people like who get turned on to me, they're like, wait a minute, weren't you in that Metal Grasshopper?
Yep.
But I think that's sort of like my career is like I've done all sorts of different things, and like kind of from Metal Grasshopper to NPR and things like that. That people there's kind of like connecting the dots between all this stuff is kind of like people are like, wait a minute, aren't you? Oh wait,
I mean,
you're
that's
that.
literally what
Oh
happened to
yeah.
me. I didn't realize it.
So it's kind
You know,
of my
same thing to me. I heard you do something recent, not a while back, and I'm like, oh, wait, that's the same guy. And I had to go back and watch Metal Grasshopper. I'm like, it's the same guy. Like, it didn't. So I was liking you in two different things. So it was kind of cool. It's like having a double fan. So, people should go back and
yeah.
check
There's
out.
people that like
Yeah.
know one thing and they know two different things and they like and they don't realize it's like the same guy, or it's not like the same guy. It is the same guy, me. But yeah, I
So
just kind of do what I like doing.
and go. Well, so I mean, there's people go back, check it
What's
out.
that?
Just put in. I want people to go back and just check it out. I want to harp on that one, but Metal Grasshopper, go back and watch it. It's funny. It's kind of cutting edge for back then. No one was doing that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of stuff now like that. But I think you and Phil and everybody should get props for that and check it out. It was one of the beginning of doing
Yeah.
fun things on YouTube like that with music and comedy. There's a lot of stuff out there to do it really well, and you do some stuff with some of those guys. I want to touch on that, but you also do other stuff. And the first question I'm going to say is, how do you find a balance? Because you have a podcast, a radio show, you have a book we're going to talk about coming. I mean, you stand up
Well,
comedy.
I don't do the radio show or podcast anymore.
Oh, it's totally awful because on your website it's there. So my apologies. I
Yeah,
just
I don't
made
know.
a
I just
stuff
do
up
what I
there.
want, really. Oh yeah, I had to update my website, but no, I stopped doing podcasts and radio, and have I'll probably do something again, but right now I have no desire. Um, I think uh yeah, it was just like over. I was overextended. So I'm kind of psyched to not be doing that. But I'm sure I say that, and I'll probably start a new podcast next week. But but yeah, I kind of just do what I like to do, and that's really my my only thing. I just I guess it would probably be better if I were like hyper focused on one thing. Maybe it'd be better for my career, my bank account, or something like that. But I'm just kind of happy to do what I like and be able to make my living that way. And so I just kind of have fun. And I figure you know uh I'll be dead soon enough, so I might as well just keep going, having fun.
So,
No worries.
your guitar playing, I mean, you really play well. So you have, and I want to say this, two bands. I don't know if they're both active at the same time or how you put your time into it. Maybe you could expand on that at least, the two
Well, I'm my
projects,
main
music.
band. I have Valley Lodge, which is, been a band I started with my friend John Kimbrough. We started that in like 20 years ago, really. And but he's out in LA now, so hasn't really been a part of it in a while. And and we have our fifth record coming out on TP Records, April 19th. First single's out February 15th. Yeah, we're best known. We're not very popular, but a lot of people have heard us in that. Our song "Go" is the theme song to Last Week Tonight with John Oliver
Yeah.
on HBO. So it's kind of like one of those bands that a lot of people know without realizing it. And then I have my other band. I mean, I have Witch Taint, which is kind of was a fictional band that turned into a real band. It's like gone back to kind of being a fictional band again. And but there's going to be some stuff coming out related to that
Oh, good. It's a fun
in the
band.
next year or so, and then but musically I think it's over. But I mean, it kind of started as a fake band with no music and turned into a real band, and then now it's gone back to its original iteration, which I think is the strongest iteration of not really existing. um but uh and then there's Painted Doll, which I do with my buddy Chris Ryford from Autopsy. um and we made a couple records that's sort of like a psych rock thing. And I don't know, we might do more with that, or we might not. It remains unclear. But I'm sure I'll do other music. I mean, we have Valley Lodge coming out, and then I'm kind of like noodling with starting a whole new band with
Oh, really?
some other people, maybe for
That'd
fun,
be,
just like a side project thing. I'm always, because I don't know, I just like making music and playing and stuff like that.
well, that's what's kind
So,
of fun to hear them. So it's a shame. And so the guy actually, so is it did John? John is Valley Lodge and also did some Witch Taint, right?
well, John, I mean, the original for the listener, if you go to the blackmetaldialogues.com, Witch Taint started 20 years ago with me just emailing black metal bands and accidentally emailing a black metal record label, and then pretending to be a teenager with this band Witch Taint and trying to get my fictional band Witch Taint signed to this label. And John and I recorded a demo in about 20 minutes that's like absolutely unlistenable. So the Witch Taint started, really, the music was the two of us. And then years later, my buddy Phil Costello and I started reading the emails on stage, and then out of that we decided to make an actual album, and we played a few shows, and then it kind of imploded, which is, it's entirely my fault, but what are you going to do? But now I'm back to sort of just being the fictional band, I guess.
I
But
guess
yeah,
because I
there's some
recognize
things coming,
the
some Witch
vocals. I
Taint stuff
recognize
in the
the
future.
vocals, from I know he used to be in Tragedy. The vocals on
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was in Tragic. He's a total genius, amazing musician. Um, and I'm sure he'll do some other awesome stuff coming up. I just don't know
yeah,
what
he's
he's
not in
working on.
Tragedy either. Yeah, Tragedy's another fun band to go see live.
No.
Um,
Oh
Yeah, because
yeah, they're amazing.
and funny, very funny. I've had some of those guys on and seen them. They're very entertaining. The,
Oh
the
yeah, they're great.
they're talented too, and that's the thing that's really great. It's just it's an eclectic thing. I think it's fun that it's kind of a community. A lot of you guys are either friends or play together, to keep it going. Um, and I find that the fact that
Yeah,
all
it's
you guys
kind of
are
like,
having success is good. Because on paper it wouldn't sound
yeah,
like
yeah, it's just kind of,
it would be big.
yeah, tragedy. I mean, I remember when they first started talking about forming that band, and now they're, however many years later, they're still doing it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I just saw them a couple of months ago, and they're great. Very entertaining,
Yeah,
great.
yeah, they're great. I don't even, I'm not even sure who's in the band anymore, but I know at least three of the guys that are in the band.
Yeah, they.
But
It's
I think they've had some lineup changes.
I think the drummer and the guitarist is new. So Mo, and then
Yeah, yeah,
and
Cornmo
Corn Mo. Yep,
and and Pete, Mo
yep,
Royce,
yep,
and Chris. But
yeah,
yeah, I'm not sure who else is in the band.
yeah. I've had a couple. I've had
But
I've
yeah,
had
they're
Mo
awesome.
and Pete on before, and they're just hilarious guys.
Oh,
Anyhow,
nice.
talented, very nice
Oh,
guys too. So,
absolutely. Yeah, super nice
um,
guys and super talented.
yeah. So it's a good. So people check them out also. But it's good to see, like, if you look on paper, like all these projects like you do and everything else. You'd be like, it would be insane to think they'd have such success. Well, it's like has a great cult following. All these projects, these comedies with music. People get it. It's fun. It's tongue in cheek, but it's also lovers of music. You know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it's cool that you know, that it kind of keeps going and there's people that dig it and yeah, it's fun to yeah, see it happen.
You do a lot of guitar in your music too, which is great. You've had some great clips. How are you doing? Do you usually come up with comedy separately and then add guitar, or do like a comedy bit and write? Like, how are you writing like the bits, or is it
Most of like with the comedy, with this with the when I play guitar in the comedy shows, I usually work it all out with no guitar, or I'm just going around here in New York and just kind of working the bits out on stage without music. And because they like I want them to all work on their own without the guitar, and then
yeah,
I add the guitar later. And I honestly, I think it's ultimately more fun and entertaining, and it adds like, especially if there's a live rhythm section, it adds like another element. Um, so there's that, and then the guitar playing. It's like so there's it's just kind of like different levels. But I mean, all of it, I make sure all of it stands on its own without any of the music because I think it all has to work on without the music. And then for me, I just like it's fun, it's super fun to go out and tell jokes, but then rip some solos, and it gives me an excuse to play a little guitar, and it's just more. It's honestly, I mean, I realize the audience likes it, but I'm just doing whatever I want, feel like. I don't really care about the audience at all. Like, I mean, I do. I want people to enjoy it, but anything I do, I'm not thinking about anyone but
right?
myself. I'm just doing what I want to do. So I want to tell jokes and rip solos. So fortunately, people like it, and I can make my living doing that. So I mean, I guess if people didn't like it and I couldn't make a living, then I would maybe I would just have to do it at home. But
Well, you're right, but that's who you
so
are,
I'm
though. That's what
psyched
people like you
that people are
for.
into it. But
You know.
yeah, I think so. I mean, I just think like when you anything creative you're doing, you should do, really be creating it for yourself, and then you know I think that's ultimately how you, I guess it's an oxymoron or something counterintuitive, but that's how you connect with people is by being true to yourself, I think, and not. I mean, I see a lot of comedy and stuff where I think it's like people trying to cater to the audience, and I hate that. I think the audience is really the last thing you should consider with art of any form.
I,
That's
I
my bold
agree.
statement. But I
No,
it
but I agree. It's a problem. I think most even artists will do that though, or comedians they'll have success. That's who they are. And sometimes they'll say they changed, and maybe they don't. But it's like they'll try to keep whatever they had, or they'll follow what the audience wants them to do at this point. Once they have that success, they don't want to lose it. But usually they make success by originally just who they were, and the audience kind of found them because who they
yeah
were. We
yeah
I watch a lot of comedy, and not being critical, but there's certain things that that you'd be a good comedian, you get good jokes, but there's like a cadence, like a way of saying things that you have. It's really kind of a natural gift to the way you say things, and it's part of the delivery. You know, is
oh
that something you
thank
always
you.
had? You're welcome, because it really makes it funnier. There's a timing, the way your character and personality is, um, where it just adds to it. It adds like such a layer to the whole piece of what I mean. It draws you in like it's not a comedian. You feel like you're watching something a little more. And I don't have the right words for it. As I say it out loud, it's like all encompassing, maybe.
Oh thanks. Oh thank you. Yeah, I don't know, I just kind of do what I want, it's weird, like, I mean, I think there's like, there's different things that I do, like, there's my Instagram stuff, which is kind of different from, I guess, connected to my what my live show is and stuff, but the Instagram stuff, a lot of it came about because initially you had like a limited amount of time that they would let you do in a video. So I was like kind of talking as fast as possible to get as many things in as I could. When it was most of it's like super stream of consciousness. I don't like write it or anything on the Instagram stuff. But like people will be like, "Oh, this is you're just doing this," and it's like always shit I've never seen or many times never heard of. Like,
Yeah,
you know, I'm like, I've heard of that maybe, but like I've never watched it. Like, but it's always these disparate things. Like, oh, this is like this guy and this guy and this guy. It's like those things are not connected. I've heard of those things, but I'm not like. But anyway, now I digress. But I don't know. I just kind of just
do your thing. But it is
do
a
what I
way of
want.
saying
I
it,
don't
though. And actually, I want to
know.
say with that, as far as people being critical, first thing is if someone's being critical of you and they don't actually have anything out and they're not producing on the internet, dealing with other people being critical of them and having to produce content or keep their career going, that's the first kind of like you gotta take everything with a grain of salt. Unless they're actually in the same thing and are doing a hustle like you, where they're producing and they got that same world, they have no idea what it's like to just be riffing, to be creating as an artist on different levels. Because everyone's gonna do something at one point. Everybody wrote a song that's already been written before. It's like there's only so many jokes, there's only so many letters, there's only so many chords. You know what I mean? It's how you got to present it and put it back out there.
Yeah.
And people are just looking to just go after them, after anybody for their, I think for their fame is what it is because they can't create. You know,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't bother me really at all. Uh, it's like really like, specific or endemic to the internet, just the nature of it, like even like my band Valley Lodge, our song Go, the John Oliver theme song, people will be like, "Oh, that's a rip off of this song." And then you go like, "No, it's not. Like that's just your like I know music and like I could tell you when I rip stuff off, but from music because the
it's no stairway to
music is
heaven.
a rip off business. I mean, and I sort of think of music and comedy totally differently. With comedy, I think like I've no interest in. I don't really think of other performers and even think of my heroes really. I mean, subconsciously that stuff will seep in, but then with music, you go like, I'm gonna totally actively rip off the Beatles right now. It's the exact opposite. So with music, I'm like, oh yeah, I know when I rip. Like no one ever says anything when you rip something off in music, but when they're right, like no one's ever right. But then they'll go, oh, you ripped this thing off, and it's like, no, I didn't rip anything off of that. What I did rip off was this other thing over here that no one noticed. Anyway, I'm just rambling as
No, that's
always.
true. I've talked to artists. I've had a handful of artists in the show, jokingly a lot, and I've albums I've listened to my whole life, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that was actually a riff I saw." They'd be like from ZZ Top, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize that." They're like, yeah, I just played it backwards or something else. And like, I've had it happen so much. I'm like, I did not realize, even as much music as I listen to,
Yeah,
how much
it's
riffs
like
are
when
recycled. You just don't have no an idea, you know. And it's really funny,
oh
actually.
totally my friend Jeff pointed out to me. Yeah, like my friend Jeff pointed out this Scorpion song, Sales of Sharon from, their like
Oh
kind of
yeah,
pre MTV radio
Uli
hits
John
days.
Roth.
That song, he's like, check out this. Yeah, who's a total beast. Um, One of
Yeah,
my
he's
favorite
nice.
guitar players, and my friend Jeff's like, oh, check out this Duke Ellington song, and then it's like they got that riff from Duke Ellington, which is pretty cool actually. To like
Really?
for Scorpions to steal from Duke Ellington.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's
have to check
when
it
you hear the
out.
two, you're like, oh yeah, that's totally what it is. I
That's
forget the
interesting.
song, but
I have to look it up. That's interesting because I dig the song. I dig the
yeah.
early Scorpions, and I have actually had
But
Uli on. I've
anyway,
talked to
but
him.
yeah, that's
He's a very interesting guy himself. You know, very
no.
very musical. Very
Oh my God, I would love to meet him. Yeah, he seems like an interesting guy. Yeah, for sure.
he sees music in
Like
colors
definitely on
and
his own
emotions.
path,
So
which
he's
is, I think, yes.
yeah, he's very interesting. He's very
Yeah,
kind too.
synesthesia, I think it's called, right?
I will look that up
Yeah, I
because
love him.
let's also
I'm gonna
talk
just
about what you got going on. So you're also a book writer, and sadly, I have not read any of your
mm-hmm.
books. That's one thing I haven't done. I like books. I
That's
just haven't
okay.
read any of your books. To just be honest with you.
They're all
Uh,
timeless literary classics. So whenever you get around to them, they'll be ready for you.
Timeless. I'll be looking forward to it. I'm not a big fan of or knowledgeable of hockey though, but so maybe you need to take the lead on talking about your new you have a new book coming out, and that's uh hockey.
Yeah, my new book. I mean, it came out in October. The Awesome Game, One Man's Incredible Globe-Crushing Hockey Odyssey, and I wrote it. My first two books were essay collections, Tasteful Nudes, and Dave Hill Doesn't Live Here Anymore. And then my third book was about Canada because my grandfather was from there, and I always said it was the greatest country on earth. So it's kind of exploring that. And then this new one was, kind of motivated by jazz. I'm not into sports at all, even though you wouldn't know it to look at me, given that I'm wearing a hockey jersey and a hockey hat right now. But I do love hockey. I just have like zero, almost active disdain for almost all of the sports. I like tennis and soccer and baseball a little bit, but I never give a shit about football or basketball. It's kind of the main sports here in America. Auto
Yeah, I don't
racing,
follow
don't
anything.
care.
I'm like those sports
Um,
teams. I don't really know any of that. You know,
yeah, but hockey is just I've always been into it and I love it. And so, the book was kind of an opportunity for me to, I'm lucky enough that with, most of the things that I'm into, comedy and music and writing and bit of acting and stuff, like I'm able to make my living doing the things that I'm into, but hockey's like my one area of interest that I don't have, and it's not at all part of my how I make a living. So it's kind of like wanting to explore this subject and kind of do a deep dive, and also, on a selfish level, take my publisher's money and use it to go see some great games and around the world, and meet some hockey fans and even play. I played hockey with different people as part of the book, from going back to my high school team, playing with like the current team who are amazing, St. Ignatius High School in Cleveland. And then, and then I went to Kenya to play with the Kenya Ice Lions, who are the only team in Kenya.
yeah, it doesn't
It's
seem
a,
like that would be a thing, like a
mind blowing
Jamaican bobsledding
experience.
team
Both.
type of thing. Seasonally, it's not the place that you would think that would be
Yeah,
a
yeah.
sport.
So, yeah. Yeah, there's one rink in Kenya, and that's the rink they play on. So it was so cool to go over there, and I'd never been to Africa before, and can't wait to go back now, and have some friends over there now. So it's cool. Yeah. So the book, but I wrote the book for hockey fans, but also for people who have zero interest in sports, or maybe like actively hate sports. I wrote it with the idea, kind of, I think anyone can enjoy it. 'Cause it's kind of memoir travelogue And I'm psyched,
I could like
people
that.
can be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I don't care about hockey at all." But I just kind of, because my favorite writing and is always, if I like a writer, really like a writer, I'm like, I don't care what you're talking about. I'm just into hearing you talk about it. So I'm not saying I'm hitting that mark necessarily, but it's definitely like something, I aspire to.
Well, I think it's a good thing actually to have that. But the way you describe it sounds interesting. I mean, I did some hockey games when I was a kid. I totally from New England. The Whalers when they were a bigger thing, and Gordie Howe. I had like because I had a family that was into the
Yeah.
the Whalers, so I did that kind of stuff. But then I totally
Mm-hmm.
faded away. But so this book to me might be a lot more interesting than I put out there. But like I think I like the idea of a book or an author or somebody like even with my show, I kind of focus it back to like, do you remember growing up like in the 80s or the 70s and it'd be like a talk show host and it would not just with the host, but they would get a guest on that you would be like, I don't like that person. They're so and so, whatever. I don't like what they do. But then somebody you get stuck watching part of the interview and you get done going, you know what, man? They were pretty bad. Maybe I don't like what they do, but I really enjoyed the interview. I didn't get what was going on. So I like the idea of taking something that maybe most people wouldn't do and putting a different spin on it and maybe giving a different perspective, at least of acceptance and kind of take somebody out of that spot, you know? So that's kind of exciting
Yeah,
actually.
totally. Yeah, I mean, I think that's like, if you think of it in terms of just human beings or your friends, like, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go hang out with this guy or whatever. You're not gonna go like, oh, I only like hanging out with him when he's talking about this subject or that. You're just like, I like my friend. And I think, writing or writers can be that way ideally. And I think, yeah, same with, there's plenty of artists where I don't like what they're doing, and then I kind of get into them talking or
Yeah.
and there's even like guitar players that I love their playing and I love watching videos of them playing, but I would never listen to their albums. But if they're just sitting there playing, I'm like, oh, I love this. This is amazing, but I
Yep.
can't listen to their songs. But so it's just kind of, I don't know. I don't know what my point is.
No,
But
I think
there's a point in there somewhere.
there's the point is it's nice to be taken out of a safe spot. And I think sometimes I hear it, they're like, oh, you're talking to this artist. Why are you talking about something else? I'm like, and if I'm repeating myself to people, I love the idea of talking to somebody. You have a touchstone, of course, it's a music show, you know, and we talk about some of your stuff because you're new and maybe you can come back again. We
Hmm.
can kind of really go off the rails on something. But it's fun to go elsewhere. Like you can see Uli John Roth interview, and he's gonna get the same 10 questions. One's gonna be about his guitar. There's gonna be probably three or four about the Scorpions. Like you know what I'm saying? And it's at every interview. So if I'm talking to him, he starts talking
Hmm.
about something else, his castle or something else, and they start talking about medieval times or something else. I'm going on that journey. I don't care anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
Because
yeah, that's
why?
always
It's why
one
not do
thousand
that?
percent. That's oh, that's always my interest with any interview is what I remember like growing up and reading like music magazines or like reading Rolling Stone or something, which I haven't looked
Yeah,
at Rolling Stone in 7 million years, but when it used to be like
music.
uh on the newsstands and maybe it still is, I don't even know. But I would read about like a band that I liked, and I when they were talking about like, oh, the tour or recording the new album, I don't care at all, even though their music is maybe my primary area of interest with the band. I'm more into like hearing them talk about like what pizza toppings they like, or like
Yeah,
it's just like kind of anecdotal things that have nothing to do with the main thing. That's
it
so
does. And some level
I
though,
kind of
because it's
think
who
of
they
that
are.
in
You know what
terms,
I mean?
with this my sorry, my dog's freaking out about something. But yeah, it's just I just like hearing if I'm into what someone's doing, I want to hear about like other aspects of them. So I tried to write this book to be like, oh, you like hockey, and here's this other stuff surrounding hockey that happened in my travels. Like, when I was in Kenya, I saw a baboon steal a loaf of bread from a bunch of school children, which was maybe the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. And so that's the kind of stuff. When that happens, I'm like, cool. I can't wait to write about that in my hockey book. You know?
Which is great. It's such a left. It's such a left turn. on that. And it's like the book sounds like really something that's really up my alley. I mean, because and not everyone's going to get it. It's fun. Like it's like what shaped who you are and the adventure and like maybe the pizza toppings. Maybe sometimes I talk about books or I talk about this or that. What were they talking about? Or it happens to be they're talking on a rant about the Grammys or we've had different whatever it's about. It helps that you hear how they're talking. It shapes who
Mm-hmm.
they are and the music you got. It gives you a better glimpse. You know what I mean? Like it's nice to see a different version. Like Metal Grasshopper was like one of the first things you saw Phil Anselmo being silly, like ridiculously silly. So it was really refreshing back then because you're like he was
Yeah,
known
I
as
mean
this
that.
guy, and it's fun to be different.
Yeah, I mean that's a great example because you know, I there's this public perception of Phil Anselmo, um, throughout his career as this like tough, intense guy. But the guy I know is like this total sweetheart goofball who is like one of the most like just outgoing, inclusive people I've ever met in my life. So it's like completely, you do see some of that, uh, publicly or in his interviews. Obviously, like had a sense of humor.
Right.
Down has a sense of humor. Um, but
But
like he's
what you did
complete
was way
like
different.
for me. I mean, like I always like when we're hanging out, he's way goofier than I am. Like goof, I'm like, come on, be serious for a second. Come on, stop it. Um, so I think that's a great example. And then also, you think like, oh, he's into extreme, he plays this extreme music and metal, but and he's done some other things like N minor and stuff that's
Yeah.
outside of that. But like, when the guy's musical knowledge is like encyclopedic. I mean, he can sing like every Smiths song, which if
I was
you
gonna say, yeah, he's
go
a big
by
fan of
like
that.
just his public, image or whatever, you'd be like, oh, he was not into the Smiths, but like he loves this, that's just one example. But
But that's exciting though as a
yeah, so
fan when
I
I
think
saw
it's
that.
cool to yeah, totally. Like just and he's a big comedy fan. He's a total nerd, which you don't necessarily see that if you just go by, you know, press and things like that, music videos or whatever.
Well, that's the only good thing I think, and it's obnoxious to have a podcast. I know it's obnoxious. I have it. I'm sick of my own self. I think if I knew there were going to be so much, I would have started one back three-ish, 4 years ago. You know, but here I am, and the goal was to make something that was a little different than everybody else was doing it. Like just making a conversation with a musician or an artist you like,
Mm-hmm.
and making it. Well, you want to promote their stuff because, of course, that's what they want to do their time. But a lot of them want to talk about something different, or there's like you just gotta have fun, or give somebody a different image of who the artist is, and but who they really are, and the real struggles or the real laughs, and it makes it more real to people and more enjoyable, I think. And I think it's a better interview. You
Yeah,
know,
totally.
it's just great.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
you I want to thank you for your time today, and hopefully I'll have you come back again. We'll do something, maybe we'll do something ridiculous. Um, Tour coming up.
I'm
Let's talk
in.
about your tour so people can know. It's all on the website, but
Yeah,
maybe
well,
talk
I
about
mean,
it.
coming up, writing these comic books for Oni Press. So I got to be home for a little bit doing that, and then I go on tour in May with the Great Tenacious D in Ireland and the UK, and then I'll do 4 nights headlining solo shows in London, May 15th through the 18th, and then what else after that? I don't know. There's stuff coming up after that. Some of it, I'll be at Stephen Page's summer camp. Uh, be me, Steven, Chris Murphy from Sloan, Bobcat Goldthwait, Craig Northey from The Odds. That's in the Catskills. That'll be really fun. July 2nd through the 5th. Now I'm just telling you everything I'm doing. And then I'm doing other stuff that I can't tell you yet. Uh, but that'll be
See,
announced soon.
okay, that's good. Well,
Secret, secret.
announce it on your
That won't
webpage.
be a secret soon.
Well, no, but on your website. You have a good website. It's pretty loaded with stuff. So I'm surprised that you don't have it up to date because there's a lot on there. I like it. I hate when you go to a website and it looks like a ghost
I
town.
gotta
It's
get
been
it. I
updated in
gotta
like
get it more up to
2018.
date.
Well, it's a good start. You got
I
some
know
stuff on the
I'm very
return.
bad about updating my website. I'm bad about it.
It looks pretty
Just
good though. You should, I give you credit. I think you're better than
I
you say
always
you are.
forget. I'm like, oh yeah. Well, it's weird. Like it's this everything today is like social media, social media. I'm like, oh yeah, my website. I forgot I have the website. Gotta do that.
Well,
And
everything
then
can
I
be linked
need
to
it
the
now
website.
because like some Wikipedia uh vandals or something destroyed my Wikipedia page, so it's become useless. I used to like that as a thing,
Yeah,
but now someone just decided they would wipe out my career on there for some reason. I don't know.
an
What are
upset
you gonna
fans.
do?
Maybe somebody just didn't like which Taint there. They're thinking it's
Maybe
death
it's
metal. It
weird.
was a
Like
death
they
metal
just
thing.
there was all this information and they just kind of wiped out like most of the things I've done and just made it and then made it all these random like I don't know. There's no point in getting into it now.
It's ridiculous though. It's crazy. Um, People check them out. Go to the website. The link's underneath here. Dave, I've been a huge fan of you for a while. I think you sold me on the book.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to
thank you.
download the book. Check
Do
them
it.
out.
There's even an
Uh,
audiobook, so you don't have to read. You can just
I,
listen.
I actually like to read. I have a bunch of books like digital now. I miss having regular books actually all the time. I just couldn't keep all the books with me. I look like some kind of hoarder. So now I just, at least digitally, I can download and save them, and then I can like
Yeah.
be like a little digital hoarder. But you don't really see the pile of books on the on the staircase and 20 cats. Um,
Yeah.
it's more like you can just have it all in one spot and then read as you have time. But that's
Yep.
I think that's the kind of book I want because yeah, the name kind of sent me going the other way. Especially when I see you dressed like that, I think, well, he's a hockey fan, and I'm not that deep of a hockey fan. I'm aware of the game, and it's fun to watch in person, but I don't care about the stats. And but it's more of a life
Me
travel
neither.
book.
I don't care. I don't care about stats at all. And like, again, my book, I intentionally kept it light on stats and strategy and stuff because I remember reading John McEnroe's book. Not that I'm equating my book to his book, but I remember being so disappointed because I was like, oh my God, he talks about tennis so much in this book. Why is he talking about tennis? Come on. I'm not reading it to hear about tennis. I want to hear about the cocaine. No, I don't know that he's ever
The
used cocaine.
cocaine.
I just
I
assume
know,
he's
I
been
know.
around it quite a bit, though. Anyway,
With that
last
temper, oh
thing I
my
need is
god,
John McEnroe.
angry
I
at
don't
you.
need John McEnroe on my ass.
That would be a great. That'd be hilarious on some level. You know, you and John at odds. So, you know, it's
I Yeah, I'm a huge fan of his,
I
which is
know,
why I read the book. But no, I just
right?
I when I say cocaine, I just meant I wanted to hear about celebrity parties, which
You're
I'm sure there
right,
was no cocaine. I don't know why I brought that up.
but also a grain of salt. You are also a comedian, so there is some space where everything you say doesn't have to be taken with a serious truth. Where you
That's the hope.
you're
Yeah.
allowed to have to stretch things and make them a little more entertaining without going for
Hmm.
the neck. Um, so they want to thank you, man, for being on the show. It's been great. I hope to see you
Yeah.
again. I hope to
Thanks for
hit you
having me.
live anytime.